Well, it's good to be back here on Sunday mornings. I'm Charlie Sykes, and Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, Milwaukee marked its deadliest month in 25 years. An activist disrupted last Thursday's Common Council meeting to protest a new public safety plan. Students and teachers headed back to school. San Francisco quarterback Colin Kaepernick says he's not standing for the national anthem to protest racial oppression. Yeah. Donald Trump makes a surprise visit to Mexico, but then delivers a hardline speech on immigration in Arizona. Libertarian presidential candidate Gary Johnson visited Wisconsin. And comedic genius and Milwaukee native Gene Wilder dies at the age of 83. But we start with new polls. Nationally, Hillary Clinton is seeing her lead over Donald Trump shrinking. And here in Wisconsin, a new Marquette University law poll shows a much tighter race in the Badger State. In early August, Clinton held a 15-point lead in a head-to-head matchup, but last week's numbers show that lead has shrunk to just 3%. Neither candidate is especially popular. Trump is viewed unfavorably by 63% of voters, with 68% saying he is unqualified to be president. Clinton is viewed unfavorably by 58% of voters. Nearly 1 out of 5 voters here, 19%, say they had no preference. Meanwhile, incumbent United States Senator Ron Johnson has also closed the gap with Democrat Russ Feingold. The Marquette poll found that Feingold's lead among likely voters is now just 3 points, 48% to 45%. Joining me on our panel this morning, the Milwaukee Community Journal's Michael Holt, former State Representative Michelle Litchens, Defense Attorney Dan Adams, and the president of Edge Messaging, Brian Fraley. Okay, Brian, your take on this. What happened in the month of August? How do you explain that big a drop for Hillary Clinton's support in just the month of August?
Well, there's a couple of things that go here. Now, first, the caveat, when you get results you like the poll. When you get results you don't, you tend to criticize it. I kind of think that this might have oversampled Republicans a little bit. But that being said, Trump is not rising a lot. Ron Johnson's not rising a lot. They're pretty much staying steady. It's the Democrats that are falling. I think Hillary Clinton's email scandal, the drip,
okay,
the revelation of 15,000 previously undiscovered emails, including 30 that have to do with Benghazi.
So her convention bounce is
just
gone.
We are back where we were in July.
Okay, your take on that poll?
Well, you have to remember the Democrats had an excellent conventions, and so maybe that bounce was artificial in nature. I mean, both sides are so calcified in both their ceilings and their floors that this is really going to be trench warfare from here until November. And these little close, the decreasing gap, I think, is going to be here to stay, and I don't think it's really all that surprising.
Okay, just kind of a reminder, though, that Hillary Clinton is just a really lousy candidate. I mean, she is a weak
as compared to Donald Trump.
No, I mean, she was up by 15 points, and I mean, is she doing a prevent defense now? Is she just
trying to run out the clock?
Is she trying to run out the clock?
Yeah, and I think
a little bit early. Don't you think?
I think that's a mistake.
Yeah.
The debates are 3 weeks away, and really, if Trump overperforms in those debates, she could be in submission.
Yeah. Okay, so the question is Wisconsin now a swing state? Is it back in play? Because early in the month, everybody was saying, well, okay, take Wisconsin off the board, 15 points. There's no way that Trump can close that gap. 3 points, that's almost a jump ball. So is Wisconsin a swing state based on that poll?
Although I would like to say that we would be, especially with the third-party candidates, if they have a chance to, have a good turnout. We were in play, right? President Bush lost the state by 4,500 votes in 2000. I would hesitate to say that maybe we are.
But that's a long time ago now.
One other reason, though, Wisconsin has the highest penetration of conservative talk radio in the country. Trump did not win the state. So I don't think that he is going to bring all of those conservative voters home to win the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, this is a state that has not gone for a Democratic presidential candidate since, Republican presidential candidate since, 1984. So it is a heavy lift. Your take on this?
Yeah, and I don't see that changing. I think it's going to be a much tighter race. But the poll also mentioned that 19% have no preference. I mean, that's a large percentage of potential voters. Now, if they stay home, or some of those go to the the Green Party candidate. I mean, that does not bode well for Hillary Clinton.
But I mean, you almost wonder what is going to be the determining factor. Is it going to be that Donald Trump has to make himself minimally acceptable? Does he have to make people feel that he is in fact qualified or somehow safe? Do people have to get over their distaste for Hillary Clinton? I mean, these numbers are unprecedented. I haven't seen any of,
but no one likes either candidate.
Yeah. Okay, right? the U.S. Senate race. Yes. Again, conventional wisdom would suggest that Russ Feingold has the advantage because it's a presidential election year. Right. He's got high name recognition. He's been leading in all the polls. That poll shows that it's a much closer race.
Yeah,
What's happening?
Feingold's running a terrible campaign. Yeah. I've said a long time ago, you know, Ron Johnson is not a very good politician. He is a good senator, but he's not a good politician. But Russ Feingold is a good politician, but he's not running a good campaign.
Why not? What do you mean?
He could have cemented this campaign, but he hasn't. If Ron Johnson, and I wrote about this in Right Wisconsin Posted this week, if Ron Johnson focuses on the fact that Russ Feingold gave us Obamacare and everything that's wrong with the health care delivery system and finance system is because, no, they don't. And if they focus on that,
well, wait till they see what
Democrats like Obamacare.
Well, yeah, Democrats do.
That it be ended will help Russ Feingold.
But you remember, this is why they threw Russ Feingold out of office 6 years ago. Right. And sometime in October, you're going to be getting these numbers of these huge double-digit increases in fees for Obamacare. So I mean,
a third of the people don't have an opinion on Ron Johnson
That's
yet.
the problem.
He's got an opportunity really to make up some ground and win again.
This good senator, nobody knows.
Right. So what has your glass half full? What has your glass half empty this week? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt, you're first.
Well, my glass is half full because a major study now sets a timeline for when black Americans will reach wealth parity with white Americans. My glass is half empty because that date is 228 years away. 228 years. That means my great-great-great-grandchildren will have enough wealth to move next door to you. Unfortunately, by then, white folks will be living on Mars.
Michelle Litchens.
My glass is half full because Wisconsin now has 14,000 food share recipients who are no longer receiving food stamps because they are working. It is half empty because we still have thousands of employers still looking for workers and thousands of people still on food stamps.
Dan Adams.
My glass is half full because Milwaukee's Health and Human Services Director Hector Colon is being reappointed. Under Colon's leadership, the county has reduced chronic homelessness by 70%. He's also led the effort to stop the inhumane practice of warehousing mentally ill members of our community. But my glass is half empty because despite Colon's strong record of achievement, some members of the county board will predictably use his confirmation to score petty political points.
Brian Fraley.
My glass is half full because it's almost fall, which means farmers are busy with the harvest. It's half empty because too many people don't understand the amount of work and science and dedication involved in growing the food that we eat.
Well, my glass is half full because we lost one of the great comedic geniuses of our time when Gene Wilder passed away. It's half full because he left behind some of the funniest movies ever made, the greatest of which, of course, is Blazing Saddles, which, you know, could never, ever be made today. Our Sunday Insight Countdown shows we are just 3 days away from NBC's Commander-in-Chief forum. It's the first joint appearance of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump in the 2016 election. That's Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. The first of 3 debates is 22 days away. The presidential election is 64 days away. And either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump will take the oath of office on January 20th, 2017. That is 138 days from now. We'll be right back. It was not the news that anyone wanted to hear, especially in the wake of disturbances that rocked the city last month. But Police Chief Ed Flynn said Thursday that July had been Milwaukee's deadliest month in 25 years. The city had 24 murders. That's the highest total since Jeffrey Dahmer's victims were discovered.
In round numbers, month after month, about 85% of our homicides involve people with criminal records being killed by other people with criminal records. We know we've had the tragic, crossfire homicides of innocent children and wrong houses being shot up. We've had a slight increase in domestic violence homicides this year. But the biggest driver of our homicides is arguments and fights and retaliation among people with, criminal records.
Meanwhile, activists disrupted a meeting in the Milwaukee Common Council objecting to a new plan to combat crime in the city.
You have been warned. Milwaukee is suffering.
Okay, so Michael Holt, interesting juxtaposition. We find out we had the deadliest month ever, the same day that protesters object to plans to actually put more cops on the street. Is anything actually going to get accomplished? Is there any sense of urgency to address this problem in the short term?
Well, that so-called plan, also had some
more cops.
Well, it had more cops, but it included some things that are unreasonable.
Like what?
Boot camps that don't work. More sentencing. But what you need to do is harsher sentencing for felons who use guns. Okay. I mean, they're really not addressing that. It was dealing with a wish list per se, and they didn't really have community input at the time. But according to the chief of police, you don't really have to worry because, he mentioned if you're not one of these 4 categories, if you're not a drug dealer or whatever, one of those.
Okay, but there's a real problem here.
No, serious problem.
That was a remarkable press conference because generally the police chief doesn't come out to say, by the way, it's even worse than you think. It's the worst in 25 years, and our murder rate is actually higher than Chicago. I mean, he's trying. Yes, he's obviously trying to sound an alarm.
And I think we do need to get some of these young thugs and terrorists off the street. We need to do more proactive things. We need to get community involved, and the community is involved in telling the police who the murderers are, etc. But what happens, I always say that, when we have these kind of incidents, the white community explodes, the black community implodes. 20 of these 24 killings were black people killing black people. And our community is in a state of siege, of terrorism.
But the only time we hear protests is when a police officer shoots
no. There were 5 people every day. There's religious groups, there's prayer vigils. What we might have.
There were no protests about the 5 other people who were killed that weekend of the riots.
No, there was. There was 2 religious groups, 2 church groups. Matter of fact, the Coalition for Justice were protesting those killings as well. Okay. But see, that never gets any kind of publicity.
All right, so Michelle Litchens.
Chief Flynn deserves a lot of credit. I think that was one of the first times that I actually saw him say, we've got a real problem here. We need to put the bad guys away longer. We haven't heard him say that before. I'm just sad because when you saw the people disturb the city council meeting on Thursday, more money is not going to solve this other than paying for more police protection there. The community, as Michael's talked about, the community needs to come together and own this.
Okay, Dan Adams.
I mean, I've spent a lot of time in jail cells with kids who have done stupid stuff, and everybody has an idea about and a hypothesis about why we have this issue. Yeah. Mine personally is that we have a large population of young men who don't have hope for jobs or education or any type of economic opportunity, so they latch on to respect. And when you add on the accelerants of social media and cell phones and cars and cheap guns, they go out and they exact respect in violent means, and that's why we have
There's another aspect of that is too, that many in the black community don't want to address. They don't have fathers in the home. Right. I mean, that is reality. 70% of the black households are headed by a woman, and so the streets become, or Uncle Sam moves into the home.
That's the problem. In the late 60s, early 70s, we decided that Uncle Sam would be a better father figure than actual fathers for a lot of poor of all races. That's been a problem. But you know what? I give Chief Flynn zero credit. You know what 2 words he didn't say at that press conference? John Chisholm. If you quit letting these guys go, if you quit cutting deals on the gun possessions, these guys won't be there to commit the more violent felonies. And another problem with the culture is the stop snitching culture. If it is a non-fatal shooting, the police officers, they tell me they get no cooperation. If someone died, then people will say, well, this person did it, or you go talk to this person. But if it's a non-fatal shooting, everybody clams up because, well, it's a respect thing.
Okay, now you may not want to hear it, but we will tell you anyway. Let's hand out some unsolicited advice. Michael Holt, you go first.
Well, the Messer Catholic School's family buried one of his students Friday who died in a car accident during which a 17-year-old driver was speeding. Parents, please tell your children the only place they'll get to quicker when speeding is to an early grave.
Michelle Litchens.
Well, to people going into acting, we need more people who exemplify the characteristics of Gene Wilder instead of Charlie Sheen.
Dan Adams.
The Milwaukee Common Council, forget the idea of building some expensive boarding school. It's an untested social experiment. And hiring seasonal police officers, I don't get it. Are they supposed to work retail in the winter, wrapping presents?
Brian Fraley.
Russ Feingold was the decisive vote to pass Obamacare. Our health care coverage is now more expensive, and we have fewer options because of Senator Feingold. Ron Johnson should pound that message constantly until Election Day. Obamacare is Senator Feingold's fault. Obamacare is Senator Feingold's fault.
Give me a break.
Well, my unsolicited advice, if you love America, somebody should take the cell phones out of the hands of Anthony Weiner and Donald Trump. Next on Sunday Insight, 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick is refusing to stand for the national anthem. Freedom of speech or lack of respect? Well, as a case of free speech, disrespect, or just celebrity attention-getting, 49er quarterback Colin Kaepernick says he won't stand for the national anthem because he wants to protest police violence and racial oppression. And if that wasn't enough, new controversy after police officials objected to Kaepernick's choice of socks that depicted pigs in police uniforms. The NFL says it's not going to intervene, and there were reports the protests might spread to other players and teams. So, Michelle Lichens, how should the league and how should fans react?
I don't think the league needs to do anything, really, but I think the fans are certainly going to react to this. They will not stand for someone who's not standing with respect to the national anthem. And Kaepernick is the product of everything that is America. Look at where he is. He had free college.
I was struck by the fact that he's protesting police brutality while he's wearing a pro-Fidel Castro shirt. Okay, the head of one of the most brutal police states ever. Is there any irony left in America?
Well, that aside, you know, it's 50th anniversary of Vietnam that I served in to protect the rights of bigots to spew their racist rhetoric, and then we didn't have rights at home. So I defend at least Kaepernick's right to say whatever he wants to say. I don't agree
no one's
with
challenging
it, but at least I'll defend it.
Is he helping the cause by disrespecting the flag and by wearing the pigs, pig sign?
The point of football is to move the ball down the field, and that's why you don't see reverse passes. I mean, here he's trying to make a political point, but he's doing it in the most politically destructive way you can think of.
He's setting himself up to be a martyr for the cause for when he gets permanently benched or cut. That's what this is.
Okay, I don't think the NFL should crack down on him. I do think that he has the right to do all of this. Right. However, it does highlight a little bit of the hypocrisy, because remember when the NFL or the Dallas Cowboys decided that the players were not going to be able to have those pro-police decals on their helmets after all the police officers in Dallas were murdered? Look, there's a little bit of corporate sports hypocrisy on display here. So what is it you don't get this week? Let's go around the table. Michael Holt, you're first.
What I don't get is why the activists are calling for the immediate release of last month's Seville Smith video. Have forgotten it's been 3 months since a Wauwatosa police officer killing of Jay Anderson, and still no video.
Michelle Lichens.
Charlie, I don't get, if this is supposed to be the year of political outsiders, why did John McCain win his primary?
Dan Adams.
I don't get the lack of attention Republican lawmakers are giving to Wisconsin's dismal record for entrepreneurial activity. Our state has been named the worst in the nation for entrepreneurship for 2 straight years.
Brian Fraley.
What I don't get is how city residents keep electing the same leaders and expect different results. The Democrats have failed you, Milwaukee, consistently, tragically failed you.
Well, what I don't get is why Hillary Clinton thinks it is a good idea to try to run out the clock in this race. If she wants to be the president, she's going to have to start, number 1, having press conferences, and number 2, actually campaign. That's the way it works, even if you are a Clinton. Next on Sunday Insight, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. But first, here's your morning news update. It is time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Michael Holt, you're first again.
Loser, the city of Milwaukee. August was the deadliest month in 25 years. We averaged almost 1 homicide a day. Okay, time to buy your bulletproof vest, folks. Winner, Milwaukee Public Schools Superintendent Darian Driver's contract was extended through June 19. Now if the board would only allow her to do what she needs to do.
Yeah. Michelle Lichens.
The winners were all of the people who paid for access to Hillary Clinton through contributions to her foundation while she was Secretary of State. The loser continues to be Hillary Clinton as more and more emails are released, and it is clear that she was raising money for her foundation and giving special access to the State Department.
Dan Adams.
My winner is Waupaca Mayor Brian Smith, who is running for state senate in the 14th district. Smith is the real deal, a moderate who cut taxes while delivering better service to his constituents. He could be a superstar if elected. My loser, the aptly named former Congressman Anthony Weiner, who is now on his 3rd, 4th sexting scandal. Anthony, you are gross. Go away.
Carlos, danger to you. Brian Fraley.
You skipped the word Democrat, former Democrat Congressman. Simple this week. Winners are Packer fans. The team's Super Bowl season begins in a week. Losers, fans of oddball humor and great acting who are mourning the loss of Milwaukee's own Gene Wilder. The Waco Kid, rest in peace.
Well, the winner, the University of Chicago, which sent out a letter to incoming freshmen telling them not to expect trigger warnings or safe spaces and reminding them the college was a place to debate ideas, not to run away and hide from them. Loser, well, schools like UWM and Marquette. Instead of standing up for academic freedom like the University of Chicago, our local schools continue to treat their students like fragile snowflakes. Embarrassing. Thanks for joining us. Remember to join me for my radio show Tuesday morning on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. Have a great long weekend.